Ape Out is a very interesting game, as it really doesn't have a soundtrack, and the soundtrack is based off of the player's actions, as the game's soundtrack is pretty much taken out of 1,000 different drum samples and randomizes them as the actions that you take. So you play as this ape who has no name, and you pretty much escape from wherever you're at. As you first start off in a research facility, then some building, then a military base, and then lastly you escape some ship. And pretty much you're just going around defeating guards. Anything that's in your way, you kind of just push away or use as a human shield against another guard, or use them to shoot other guards and stuff like that. And it's very unique and different, as like I said before, every time you do an action it makes a drum symbol that's randomized off of 1,000 different drum samples that are taken from the game. So every time you defeat an enemy it's a different sound, and you probably haven't heard all 1,000 sounds that the game has to offer, and that's pretty much the soundtrack of the game, which I haven't seen any other game kind of do. And the game is just complete chaos, honestly, as the whole game screams chaos, whether it be the art style, the just the gameplay, and the music in general. It just makes everything just so chaotic and crazy, making you have to think quickly as the decisions that you make. And the game is pretty much just the right trigger is to throw your enemies, and then the left trigger is to hold on to your enemies. And you can use the right stick to aim, as you use the enemies when you're holding them. A few seconds later, they'll shoot one shot, or sometimes multiple shots, depending on the enemies that you hold on to. As the later levels introduce new enemies and new kind of mechanics. As like the first level kind of just introduce you to the riflemen, the suicide bombers, the shotgun guys, and then also introduce to you the like the darkness, pretty much, as you actually take out the power for a little bit of time, and then it's all darkness, and you pretty much have to go through stealthily while avoiding the flashlights of the guards, pretty much, which is pretty cool. And the game does a really good job of just a difficulty curve, as the game kind of starts off pretty easy with kind of shorter levels and not too many guards, as well as not too many tricky enemies, but then later on ramps up with harder enemies, more enemies, different terrain, not really too many spaces to take cover, like more open area and stuff like that, which is really good. And Devolver's been doing a great job with that, as Devolver's pretty much been doing so many great games like Katana Zero, The Messenger, even like Enter the Gungeon, which does so many great jobs in difficulty curve, and Ape Out is no exception to it, as it as well does a great job of providing difficulty. And although the game is short, it's really fun, and I had a blast playing it. I wouldn't say this game is $15, as it is retailed for, but I actually got it for 50% off for the Nintendo Cyber Sale. And for $750, I feel like it's a pretty good deal. For 15, maybe not so much, as the game's only like around 3 or 4 hours. But it definitely is worth another playthrough, as like I said before, the whole soundtrack is randomized. There is a harder difficulty as well, as you start off with a softer difficulty, but then once you beat the softer difficulty you have the harder difficulty, and makes things a little bit harder, adds new enemies, adds new enemy types. There's more enemies. The enemies take less time to shoot, so they shoot a lot quicker than they do in softer mode, and it's just overall just even more chaotic than it already was in softer mode, which is pretty crazy to think about, but they do it somehow. So the game consists of 4 levels, like I said before: research facility, building, military base and ship, all adding new enemies, new elements, and so forth. And there's also the single called Break-In, which is a very difficult and long level where you break in and you're pretty much the ape trying to save his son, and then you break out, and it's just one giant level, which is really hard. It took me 4 minutes to beat, and then not to mention how many deaths it took and how much time it took me to actually beat it. But definitely was a challenge, and definitely a pretty fun challenge. It definitely didn't feel like it was unfair, and this game does a pretty good job of kind of teaching you, especially when you die. It says the word dead, and then it shows you the map of the level, as well as the how far progress you made, which is really cool. And I like how it shows that, so that you know like how far you went, similar to like Cuphead, where it shows you how much left you have to defeat the boss, where it doesn't really show you when you're playing and how long it takes to beat that boss or how much longer there is to level, but when you die you realize, and then you learn from your mistakes and get better. The game also seems to be randomly generated of levels, as you will go into a level at one point, but then when you die, the structure may be a little bit different. It's still the same length, and it's still the same kind of level design. The really only difference is kind of the, I guess, I don't really know how to explain it. It's weird, but like there'll be like certain rooms that are not like missing, or there will be certain rooms that will be there or not be there, and also the enemies are randomized too, especially in the elevator segments like this. Sometimes there'll be different enemies than were the first time. Especially in the level Break-In, there'll be these elevators, and in softer mode, there are no suicide bomber guys, but in harder mode there are. So sometimes there'll be a suicide bomber in the elevator, and if you throw it against the elevator, which are usually the safe spots, you'll pretty much kill yourself because of the suicide bomber. And so because of that, it makes the level a lot harder and more difficult, because there are a lot of elevators in that level. But overall, I also really like the design of the level names, as you saw right there. Like with Blown Out, it showed the word blown out, and then out got blown, because that's just how the words work. And I really like that. It really was a cute detail that I definitely enjoyed looking at. And yeah, there'll be like the word circle back, where the word circle would circle in the back of the word back. And just cute little details like that definitely made me laugh, and was just really charming and stuff. Overall though, really fun game, definitely recommend it, but look out for a sale, honestly, because it is very short, and I don't think it's worth $15, but definitely look out for it for a sale. Not that difficult, definitely very unique and different than a lot of other games. Just a ton of fun. I had like a smile on my face the entire time, just wrecking havoc and going in, just destroying all these guards and all that stuff. And I'll definitely probably play more of this game, just to have a just blast, just destroying guards, honestly, and just wrecking havoc, as you feel powerful when you play this game, or at least that's how I felt, as you're just like destroying so many hordes of enemies, similar to like, I don't know, like the Warriors games, as you're destroying a ton of enemies, and you feel so much more powerful and having so much more power than the other than the enemy base. This game actually does have one soundtrack, which is, I think, You Gotta Have Freedom, which is like the credits theme. Really good song. I discovered that song from this game, which is also a really cool thing to point out. But other than that, that's really all I have to say about this game. Really fun, really unique art style, unique, one of the most unique soundtracks I've ever heard, even though it really isn't a soundtrack. Like I said before, it's just a randomized drum set, honestly. But yeah, just really fun, really cool, recommend it, like I said, but probably wait for a sale because it is a bit short. That's really the only disappointment that I had with this game, and the only thing I didn't like about this game was its length. As like I said before, it's only like 3 hours. But if I had to rate it, I'd probably give this game probably a 9 out of 10, maybe 8.5. But like I said, had a lot of fun with it. I beat it like in one playthrough, or at least the easy mode. I went back and played the hard mode as well. But definitely maybe looking forward to hopefully this game gets some DLC content, because I think Katana Zero, which is also made by Devolver, is getting DLC. So maybe this game will too. But there is Ape Out Junior though too, which is from Devolver Bootleg. But I haven't played that game. But maybe I'll review Devolver Bootleg next. Who knows? Anyway, though, thank you guys all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more reviews right here on Tone Nick. Bye.